Okay, so we're down to using fonts right now, and what I'm going to do is use Google Fonts to ensure that everybody sees the same thing. Fonts are wonderful. They can really help convey a message. I know everybody wants to use Comic Sans. That's my own personal bit of humor. Anyhow, so what we're going to talk about today is how to do Google Fonts. This should be relatively simple and straightforward. Hopefully, won't take very long to do. Um, Looking at Figma already has Google Fonts embedded as far as options go. So if I highlight something, I can see text, and this is basically a list of Google Fonts. So quite extensive, and you get an idea of what is available. On the left-hand side, we've got the fonts that were suggested in class, those being Playfair Display for like H1 headings, and then Assistant for text. Now I've just changed the main content area, but when I do this in the HTML and CSS, we will actually do all the things. So let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is open up GitHub, and I'm going to follow what is the best practices. This is working as a single person on a repository. You don't necessarily have to follow this, but it's good practice to get into. So today I'm going to be doing fonts. So I'm actually going to create a branch, do my work, commit it, create a merge request, and then pull it back in. So I am going to, I've already got origin fonts here. I don't know why, but let's go ahead. I'm going to create a new branch, and I'm going to name this Google Fonts. Create branch. Now anything I change is going to stay in that branch. I don't have to worry about messing up the work that I've already done. If I completely screw something up and the page goes completely sideways, I can always go back to my main branch. I can get rid of this or master branch. I can get rid of this Google Fonts branch and start over again. So the next step is let's go editing. Actually, the next step is let's get our fonts. So fonts.google.com, and we want Playfair display. I'm going to click plus. And then the other one is assistant, and I'm going to click plus. When we do this, Google is nice enough to give us basically everything we need to make this happen. The first part is the link for your style sheet, or style sheets as the case may be. This is assistant, and then a pipe sign, and then Playfair display. Now, this is a style sheet, so it goes in our web page, and it goes in the head of our web page. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go over to my Atom, and I have index.html opened. And I'm going to place that link right here. So now I have another link that's href out to fonts.google's API that tells it what the fonts are that I want. The next step is then to actually put what do we want to show up as those fonts. And that how we do that is specified in the CSS. I'm going to copy both of these and go back once again to Atom. I'm going to go to styles.css. I'm going to go all the way to the top because we have font size 18 pixels, and I'm just going to paste these in so I have them in the file. So the Playfair display is for the headings, and the assistant is for the rest of the text. So this would technically work for the file. All the text will show up as assistant because assistant is the second thing listed. Order matters. Last rule wins. We don't necessarily want to do that. We want this font family separate because it's for the headings. And I'm going to cut this. So what I want to do is have the H1, H2 all the way down to H6 in this different font. So I'm going to say H1, comma, which separates out the rules. So H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And we are going to paste that font family in for Play Fair Display. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to save this page as well. I have to save the index. And let's go back and load this back up and see what we see. We can see that we have, it definitely changes text. That is correct. What we don't have is in our Figma, there is an H1 here that is supposed to be the full name. So let's go ahead and add that back in so we can see that the H1 is a different font. I'm just going to scroll down through, and in the main section, right under About Me, but before the text, I'm going to put in an H1 and put in my name. Save it, go back and refresh, and you can see it is a different font. One of the things that came up in class was this should be like 2.5 EM or 2 EM. Should be twice the size of the regular font. H1 by default is. And I didn't really go into it in class. I was just made note of it. But the reason why this is happening is because in the CSS, I put this asterisk font size 18 pixels. Well, that means everything's 18 pixels, which also means H1, H2, H3, all the way down. This is a mistake on my part. It's not something I should have done. So I'm going to correct it right now. But I do still want that to be my base font size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that out. And I'm going to say body. And so what this is going to do, this is going to say anything that's within the body tag has a font size of 18 pixels, but it won't override the H1, H2, H3 on down. I'm going to save this, and let's go look at our web page again. Click refresh, and now our H1 is more the size that it should be. And if I look at this, bring up the inspector, go down, select the font, and then if I actually look at the font size in the calculated side here, font size is 18 pixels. So that is how it works. And it's as simple as that. Now, the other thing that I will be checking is I'm going to be checking if these validate. And the way you do that is once you have GitHub pages done, you can just use that URL. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to go back to GitHub. I can see the changes I made here with the H1 and the font family. And I can see the changes that I made in the index.html where I added the font and I added the H1. So for summary, I'm going to say added Google Fonts, description, added Google Fonts and fonts, corrected text size, and added H1 with name. I'm going to go ahead and commit that. And then I'm going to do a pull request, which is actually up in repository. Actually, it's branch. Create pull request. And then I'm going to publish branch. This, of course, is going to send me to GitHub. And I have a chance to edit any of this. It's open a pull request. I'm just going to say create pull request. And you can see that I have two. This was where I was messing around with adding, let me see here. No conflicts with the base branch. So there's two, but it doesn't really tell me what. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Oh, this is just the, sorry, this is just the one that I just added. So I have two of these. One was 3 days ago. This one was 32 seconds ago. I'm going to take a look at this one. Once again, I can actually, there's no conflict, so I can just click merge. If I want to see what actually changed, I can click on this, which is the actual commit. And then I can take a look at, oh, well, I did change to files that I wanted ignored, so that's what that is. I saw my style sheet, I can see what I've added. And in my index, I can see what I've added. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go back to review changes. Actually, review changes, I'm just going to approve it. Oh, so remember when I talked about the process as having somebody else approve the pull request? This is pull request authors can't approve their own pull request. So I really can't approve this. Good thing to know. Let's go back to our commits. Actually go back to our pull request. See if we can go about this in another way. Merge pull request. Confirm merge. Okay, so let me do it there, but it wouldn't let me do it in the other screen. Kind of odd. But now if I go back to my main, whoops. Let's see. Sample, portfolio. And if I look at my index page, I should see fonts.google APIs, which is good. And I can see that I have an H1 here. I'm going to go ahead and look at this on GitHub. Easiest way to do that is probably just go to settings, because then I don't have to remember the URL. Click on that. I see my fonts are different. Looks good. So I want to actually validate this page. I want to see if there's any issues. I'm going to open up a new tab. And what we use is validator.w3.org. This is what I use. And we could actually upload a file. We could paste all the content in. But since we have it on a publicly available browser, web page, we have it on GitHub, I can go ahead and just give it this URL. I can't use this because it's local to my machine. W3 has no way to get to my machine. So it has to be something that's out on the public internet. I'm going to click check, and I'm going to have errors, just so you know. So warning, we can, those aren't as critical. We should probably pay attention to those. And basically this is saying that we should have a language equals English. or en. Not critical. But this does create an error. And that is because of that pipe symbol in between these. The way that we avoid this is simple as going back to our index page. And I'm going to go up here. And where that pipe sign is, I'm just going to press enter. I'm going to copy this first part out all the way up to the question mark. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to replace the pipe sign with that part. And I'm going to copy this last part and paste it on the end. So we basically have two separate font definitions. So I have two different links to style sheets. We could do this by getting the Google fonts one by one, but that's a little bit more work. We can also do it with this, where we're actually just picking out the ones that we want and going with that. Okay, so that's all there is to that, but we need to finish this up and verify that this did indeed take care of the error. So I'm going to save this, go back to my GitHub. Once again, I'm still on Google Fonts. So I'm going to say resolved validation error with 4 R's, and there's really only need for 2. I'm going to commit this once again. I'm going to go up, branch, create pull request, push the commits up. It's going to open this up, and let's say linking to fonts creates validation error corrected code. And I'm going to create pull request. And as we found out before, this has no merge. I can go ahead and click merge here, but if I review it, I can't merge my own pull request. Let's go back to this validator. The URL should be the same. So I'm going to click check again. And now it probably hasn't actually changed yet. So let's commit. Let's look at this real quick. In the head, oops, we have link style sheet, link style sheet. So we do have separate style sheets. Let's go back and we'll just go back one and click check now. All right, so we have one warning, but no errors. So that's no points off, right? Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day.